are refusing that we should not allow people to be put on punitive terms, discriminative terms, where they are paid 40,000, where their counterpart are paid more than 100,000, and to continue offering same services in the same environment.
From 4 billion, it goes now to 8 billion. I don't know whether it is now 12 billion. It is not possible.
We cannot go to the hospitals under coercion. We cannot go to the hospital through threats. Yes. We cannot go to the hospital out of intimidation. We will only go when we have been given a clear-cut plan that our issues are being resolved.
Why don't we, for once, focus on the intention of internship? This internship was to enable this doctor to hone his skills and to end up getting a license where now he can go and practice.
We already have around 111 members of parliament who've texted me and assured me that they are going to sign the impeachment motion and they are going to support it on the floor of the House. And this will be the greatest impeachment ever. Why? Because of the arrogance, the ignorance of the Cabinet Secretary for Health.
I want to call upon the President and all the people that are responsible to ensure that the strike, especially for the doctors, is brought to a completion, a stop, and will solve these issues once and for all.
93% of Kenyans decided through the Presidential Working Party that we are domiciling junior school in our primary schools.
The issue of domiciling junior secondary in secondary schools, I think that is a bit backward because we are already up there and schools are going on.
Is the government able to put up 15,000 classrooms between now and December to allow these students to remain in primary schools next year? That's what you are looking at. Do they have enough teachers who are qualified to teach now second school subjects at the grade 9? They need practicals. Do we have labs in primary schools? Are they equipped? Do we have the equipment? Do you have all the resources to do that between now and December?
Watoto wetu ambao pia wako kwa shule ya msingi na wanaitwa grade 7, 8, 9, tungeomba wapeleke kwa shule ya upili kwa sababu tuko na walimu wa kutosha katika shule za upili. Tuko na maabara, tuko na maktaba. So tungeomba ya kwamba kabla mambo yajaribika ama kabla meli izame, tungeomba ya kwamba au wanafunzi wapelekwe katika shule za upili.
Your Excellency, my dear brother, I thank you most sincerely for accepting to support Kenya's candidature for the position of the chairperson of the Africa Union Commission 2025-2028.
The purpose of this visit by the Kenyan president is to reaffirm the ties of cooperation and the bonds of friendship that our two countries attach to our relations with each other.
I have assured His Excellency that Kenya will support the Republic of Ghana for the candidature of Honorable Shirley Bochwe, Minister of Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration, for the position of Secretary General of the Commonwealth for the period 2024-2029.
Consequently, we demand that all those people who have been named as UDA officials must immediately resign from public service. There is no way they will serve two masters, the public and the UDA party.
For a long time, Kenya is not able to feed or to have enough eggs for itself. It doesn't require so much investment. And I want to ask such farmers, if you have any issue to do with financing, our African Finance, AFC, and Agricultural Finance Corporation is the farmers' bank in this country. We ensure that you get money to do your livestock farming, your crop farming at a very low interest rates.
The biggest asset we have as a nation is our human capital. And for your information, we spend 650 billion shillings every year on our education. It is the largest single budget. The same way we are spending so much money in sharpening our human capital through education and training, we must equally have a coherent, intentional plan on how do we monetize this asset.
How do we monetize these assets? That's the president there speaking to the diasporans in Ghana, and also be fully attuned that, or aware that he also indicated that they're going to pare down on their budget. That is from what it is currently at, from around 4.5% to around 3.7%, if I get it right. I don't have my math very right, but they're going also to pare down on the budget, as it were. Also, looking at this editorial cartoon, there are calls for the CS to resign. That is Susan Nakhumicha. With the current crisis as it is right now, this is the 23rd day that we're getting into with the doctor strike. Kenyatta National Hospital also has been paralyzed. Many are affected, as it were. You can see the government is on the ground with band-aids and bleeding profusely, as indicated here by GAMS. See, like a technical knockout. Where do we go from here? Is the proffering from the government, that is the incentives given, enough, according to the CBA, that the doctors are saying we are not, or they are not really realizing what was being or should be actualized from the CBA as it stands right now. SRC, also, there is indication from legislators that the commissioners should be part-timers, and also there's a call for the fertilizer scandal to be probed, and the CS in charge, as you saw him there, that is CS Linturi, he should resign as well. Right, let's just hear from our panelists briefly before we buckle down to other business stories, just on that particular bites from all the bites from the soapbox, and to talk about the resignation also of the CSs. Not really the cartoon. Cartoon is just a segue to the discussion. But could we maybe pick up from that? Should the CSs resign, both of them? Fertilizer scandal, embroiling agriculture sector. We have also the crisis now into the third day. This is the 23rd day.
I think the one that caught my attention was the president in Ghana.
Yes.
I hope he is enjoying fufu and kenke.
Kenke,
the one of their foods, very nice, and plantain. But I think one thing that caught my attention on his visit is the fact that the former Ghanaian president, Jerry Rawlings, named his son Dedan Kimathi. That was quite surprising. And instead of naming our kids Dedan Kimathi, we named them Ian, Kevin, Graham, Jaden, and so on.
No, which also brings to the fore XN. We've never deciphered what XN really means.
Even my mom
never told us.
Even my mom doesn't know. But I think the question,
the best kept secret.
The question you're asking about medical doctors being on strike, that's really a big bad brought on our medical system, on our country's image. Because people are asking if doctors can go on strike because they cannot be hired, what about the other sectors? Which now brings us back to our earlier argument. The government is finding it hard to hire doctors. One of the reasons that was given is that they don't have the money. And maybe one of the things we need to do is to think of our model of hiring doctors in this country. It is fragmented. Every county hires the doctors. Should we try the Teacher Service Commission so that we have a medical doctors commission or something, so that all the doctors are pulled together? Because now we have a case where some counties have a surplus of doctors, and other counties have a deficit of doctors. But what you said earlier, if you don't come from that particular county, you may not get that job. But if it was centralized, then the government can be able to distribute doctors from one part of the country to another. So on whether the CS Nakhumicha should resign or not, I think it's a bigger issue than the CS, because a budgetary issue, and I think it's also being politicized. So it's not just a question of her resigning, but solving the problem that are facing the health industry.
Thank you. Briefly.
If a civilized world, they would resign. In a civilized world, fertilizer will make somebody resign. Because it's purely your responsibility to ensure there is quality assurance. They would. But for the health, even if she resigned and you take me there, the fundamentals are not yet correct.
Correct.
I don't have the resources to pay, but we do have those resources. But we are using them in lavish trips, in lavish whatever.
Refurbishing State House.
Even though this trip, I'm actually at pains where we are taking so much to ensure that rider goes to AU, so that we can do what when he's not here? That's something I cannot understand. And what you're saying, the Kenyans are saying, we have the resources, but they're not being used in the right way. So even if CS resign today and bring another CS, that CS is not going to manufacture. It's not going to mint money or resources. Let's utilize what we have in an optimal and directed to the sectors which matter in the economy.
All right.
So I will not, for what is his name again, the guy for agriculture?
Linturi?
Linturi, I will resign.
All right. Let's hear from Bunyasi Sako.
The fertilizer scandal is a heavy cost to this economy. Many farmers, including small-scale farmers, including farmers in rural areas who were previously far from technological centers, had warmed up substantially to the use of fertilizer. I know we have talked around this table, why just fertilizer, but the truth of the matter is that if you want to get to understand the impact of things, you have to look at it at the margin. You know, if you increase a bit of this or a bit of that, and a bit of fertilizer increase in its utilization leads directly to increased productivity. But now, undermining that trust by allowing packaging, and I was shocked the other day, maybe it was just a clip, an audio clip, in which the CS is saying that some of that is just propaganda, there's nothing like that, the fertilizer is good. I think that's very sad.
It is substandard, it's not fake.
Yeah, I think he ought to have picked up, he ought to be telling us before he opens his mouth, I have picked up from 100 centers around the country and these are our findings. And let them be truthful findings, because then he doesn't own the problem. He's internalizing the problem. And it may just be cartels that are, well, cartel is maybe too general now. Some people are trying to make money out of this. Some of it is just purely arbitrage, that they have the ability to access fertilizer at 2,500 and to let it back out at 6,500, making a gross net there of 4,000 shillings by just playing around, pick up the subsidized fertilizer, put it on the open market, and so on. Now they're even going a step further, present the subsidized fertilizer a fake, as if it was a subsidized fertilizer, and make the entirety of the margin that you're making, even at the fertilizer level. You know, that it's costing you maybe 500 shillings to package something from this place near Gilgil, Kariandus. I think that's near by there where they mine this thing. I think the CS should take personal responsibility on this. It shouldn't be in the office. And I agree with the Professor Gitura here that for health, if you ask her to resign, it's a question of taking political responsibility. I am the CS and my team is all on strike, so I quit or something like that. You could do that, but it's of a different caliber.
Right.
From that that's happening in fertilizer. It's not just fertilizer, it's many things. It's in drugs. It's in the way now to get an extension officer out of their offices, you have to send them transport and lunch, that kind of thing. Systems aren't working there. The CS should really take responsibility. He must face up to it.
Right, heads must roll. Yeah. All right, let's turn our focus now to what is happening also with new bills where the chairperson and members of the Salary and Remuneration Commission could soon work part-time if MPs enact a proposed law seeking to change their terms of service. The Lynn Mengich-led team currently works full-time, a situation that Kimilili MP Didmus Baraza once changed to reduce SRC's operational cost. In a bill due at the National Assembly, Baraza is proposing that the SRC chairperson and select members serve a fixed term of 6 years, but on an as-needed basis. The chairperson and members appointed under Article 230, subsection 2, subsection A, B, and C shall serve on a part-time basis of a non-renewable term of 6 years. The Salaries and Remuneration Commission Amendment Bill 2024 reads partly. And also the members appointed under Article 230, subsection 2, D, and E shall serve on a part-time basis. It adds, Baraza is a ranking member of the ruling party, hence could get the blessings and facilitation of the party to fast-track the legislation. And we want just to put that into perspective briefly. So far, what do you think about this? I think this has been in the pipeline on whether some commissions should be serving on a part-time basis. What is the import so far when it comes to maybe a full-time job capacity? Will they be twiddling their thumbs sometimes when they are done with the salaries review? What do you think about this latest development?
I think for this one, I see some mischief.
Mischief?
Yes. You remember when MPs want to increase their salaries.
And they say they will punish.
They want to increase their allowances and so on. And SRC, Salary and Remuneration Commission, says you should not do this. You're not within the guidelines. So I see this as MPs' way of hitting back on SRC to make sure that if they are working part-time, they have less control and they are easier to manipulate. The excuse being given that you are going to reduce the operational cost of SRE looks very good until you discover that even the parliament itself can reduce its operational costs. So let's be fair to everybody. I think I see politics in this, and I see some mischief in this. It's more than just reducing operational costs. They just want to have control of SRC so that they can remunerate themselves the way they want.
So we should read it, or take it with some pinch of salt.
This is a very powerful commission. We should have full-time workers. I don't know about the other commissions, but for this one, we should have full-time workers.
Yituro, what do you think?
It protects a lot of interest in this, because salary means a lot in terms of livelihoods and lives. I do agree with XN that for once, if he is the one who said that, the MPs, they're mischief, and I think my brother on my right was one of them. I really don't take in that group. But we have said this here before, and I miss Bill. Where's Bill? I haven't seen him for a long time. Our brother who plays for us in the morning before he comes. Bill said this is the worst parliament we have ever had for years.
Who is Bill?
Okello. No, not Okello.
Bill Okero. Bill Okero is on Ramadan right now, so he's taking a break.
Hi, Bill, wherever you are. And he is saying that this is the worst parliament. I think they want to have a free hand in it. What I perhaps say, or rather, in most corporate governance, you probably have 2 terms. You can say this commission will be here for 10 years, 5 term, then others can come for new ideas, but not there forever. It should not, and I hope that's not the kind of things you take to Parliament to vote whether it should be there as part-timers or not, because if it goes there, they'll vote, of course, that it should be part-timer. Right. I think that's why the executive comes in, the judiciary comes in, and very strongly, these are people we require really to put ourselves into check.
All right. Mr. Sako, just briefly.
Yeah, very briefly indeed. The Salaries and Remuneration Commission annoys nearly everybody in the system. It irritates many people across the board. But that's why, in fact, it's one good reason why they were established. Because they help bring some order in the compensation strategies and so on. But the argument as for whether they should have full-time commissioners or not, I would think should be handled separately. Separately in the sense that the commission has staff. Let us remember that. They have technical staff of all ranks. Those, of course, are full-time. But commissioners who make decisions in a city should really be treated like board members, as it were. I don't think they need to be full-time, the commissioners. But of course, the staff complement is quite big. They have a lot of
secretariat.
The secretariat, yes. Is quite big, and they do a lot of good analytics and so on. The commission, I had misgivings about the commission at one time, but I think that they have an important role to play.
They do, actually.
Right. Okay.
But I agree with that point. Let's treat them like any other board.
Yeah.
The commissioners are there as board, but the secretariat does the analytics.
Yeah.
And that guides, and that now guides the commissioners in making their decision.
But the Constitutional Commission.
Sorry?
It's a Constitutional Commission.
Yeah, but that's not the point of making that...
the commissioners full-time, no.
The commissioners are full-time, right?
Yeah, they needn't be.
Yeah.
Just for the CA or other commissioners as well?
Across the board.
Across the board.
The only other one that is like them is the TSC. Is also full-time commissioners.
In fact, they get a salary at the end of the month.
Yeah. But those should just become like members of a board and so on. And,
so you see it on a need basis?
No, it could be structured. It could be structured every quarter or every so often, as the case is. It's not erratic. It'll be something that is pre-planned.
And it has nothing to do with operational costs, as the members of parliament are claiming.
Yeah.
No, it's nothing to do with that.
It's good. Something to do with them.
Yes.
All right, let's move on. The Treasury has launched an audit of the bank accounts held by national and county governments entities to pave the way for the rollout of a Treasury single accounts, that is TSA, that the Cabinet approved in January. The exercise is targeting government, ministries, agencies and departments, corporations and semi-autonomous government agencies, that is SAGAs, public funds and projects, county governments and their entities. In a letter dated March 26, Treasury Principal Secretary Chris Kipto directed the entities to provide details of accounts, including the name of the bank, branch, account number, and the identities of the signatories. Kenya has opted for a hybrid model that allows entities to maintain separate accounts that are linked to a central account. All funds in these accounts must, however, be transferred to the primary TSA account at the end of each day. And it has been in the pipeline for the longest time right now, Excellent Iraqi. Do you think this will be able to stanch the flow of corruption?
Maybe one of the words that we have used over and over here is the word theoretical. Because I think theoretically it's possible. Because when you said that there's a report here that according to the Treasury, public entities hold more than 3,000 bank accounts. So it's very hard for anybody in the Treasury to find out what is in each account. So I think, in my opinion, this TSA or this called Treasury single account, I think is the direction in the right, is a good way of doing things. But the question is, will it take autonomy, financial autonomy from these entities? Because you need money for operation costs, you need money to buy certain things and to do certain things. So if the account is there, but it is interlinked with this bank account so that the Treasury probably can know what is happening there, it's in order. My concern is if all the money is put in one account, and then if you have to buy toilet paper or buy something, you have to make a request. That would make operations of these entities very difficult. Mm-hmm. So I think if it is prepared in the right way, it would work, as long as the purpose is not to control these entities, but just to get an understanding of what is happening there, so that you can monitor what is happening and take corrective measures. But if it's the purpose of controlling the money, I think it will backfire.
It will backfire?
Yes.
All right. One thing that has been flagged, maybe just let me hear from Bunyasi Sakwa, then we see why it will backfire. Do you hold with this view that it will backfire?
No, that's being pessimistic, rather pessimistic of Professor Iraqi. Normally he's a very positive person. But
is it being a realist or a pessimist?
It will not work
He's
properly.
moved from realist to pessimist this time.
I'm an optimist.
But back to this, there's so much abuse, I can assure you. Accounts are set up by entities in ways that you cannot, even the Auditor General has to discover them, as it were. So it's not normally done in good faith. So I think going towards this single account, you can have sub-accounts within a single account so that you can still track your transactions the way you want to transact them. But if they achieve one thing, control, in this case, just control, that would be a big development. Then they would have to work out, including any amendments they may need to do to allow for some flexibility on the use. But you can't doubt the fact that in a society like ours, where we are worried about issues of governance, and particularly financial governance, as being so rampantly corrupt, that some control has merit in itself. I am in favor of a single account. I think there are some difficulties along the line. The more you hear noises, the more effective the policy action is. Something is there that's going to cut back. And then they can work through that to avoid the what did he use? Yes, yes. They definitely come back to bite them, and so they can work through that. But let me tell you, where we are, we need this kind of control.
Yeah.
Right. It's interesting because it's a contradiction in the sense that we are talking of MDAs and the counties there. Who authorizes these accounts to be open? Who's the grantor for the accounts? It's Treasury. Right?
Yes.
So, yeah, so why do they allow all this? And now you're coming now, I need one. But for control purposes, I do agree with you itself to have that. But we have this thing we have in government called petty cash. They can deal with it. Because the intent of having so many, in my view, there are possibility of some dirty games. So maybe that's what we want to stop. I do recall once upon a time, there was a PS. He had 9 accounts in one bank. And he was told by the manager, no, this is very expensive for you. And even us, as individuals, probably the maximum we have is 3 accounts. Yeah? Patrick probably has only 1 bank account. No, he cannot keep track of all the others. But naturally, when you have a few ones, it helps you. So it's easy to track. So I would go for, let's go for single, but there will also be flexibility of, the one I want to buy a TP, as he put it, I don't have to go to the bank. There should be some fruit or some kind of a petty cash to do that kind of thing. But a single account
is the way to go.
Yeah. If you go to the governor, and this is another animal, and I second my brother, this is an animal we would need to dissect maybe down the road. That's where worse things are happening. You know, we had one in Kiambu. Yeah, you remember, where we said that very innovative, that we shall remove the house and not the liver. Is it the liver we are moving, or is the house? Yeah, we'll remove the liver, and leave the house. And we had, he had account with his daughters. He had account, I don't know with who. I think that's the kind of thing we are trying to look at. Yeah, and the cabinet in his wisdom, I think so that. But also, it should have. Government is very particular when you open that. So there was some authorization from the same institution called the Treasury.
Right. Patrick, welcome back.
Yeah, thank you very much.
We should declare Thursday a board's members' day.
Yes. I think for me, this issue of a single account is a good idea. But then what it does, it means, and if it's structured well,
right,
it means that internally, in every organization, you will have your budgets and your budget lines. So when you need to do anything, you actually have an internal process that says this is being spent against X. And once that is all authorized internally, then the money leaves. And the authorization for the money to leave is then under a different governance structure, so that you have one checking the other one. That, I think, is the basis for this kind of situation, where the authorization to spend, because there is a need to do it and it's a business case and it's being done, is done through one process. And then the next process is now to authorize the money to go out, and that's got another process that cross-checks that the authority to spend and the things being spent on is good. But when you have an organization having 20 bank accounts, it's as though each budget line has got its own account. Yes. And that means that I'm in charge of that budget line and I'm in charge of the account. I can do what I like in there without anybody checking what I'm doing. I think that's a conundrum they're trying to control. But as everybody else has said, the governance structure that goes around this whole thing and how it is managed is very, very important. And these are things that in this digital day and age are very simple to set up. Right? The issue of not being able to spend, you know, on a cup of tea or buying salt and everything else, I think is neither here nor there.
Yeah.
But if you are able to use the digital space, and in a way, the digital space is like HIV to the government. They ran away from it completely. You know, when we've been talking about, can the government go digital? From, I think, 2009, 2010 or thereabouts. I think at the time, the Vision 2030 was set up, one of the biggest things that was being talked about at that time was the government going fully digital.
Knowledge-based economy.
And
that was it.
Yeah. And if we can do that, such that the structures and the checks and balances are all built into a structure, then it means that so long as you follow the governance that has been, the architecture of which has been put into a digital system, the efficiencies of operation are still going to be there. So it means that if Bunyasi has to approve something, right? It goes to him and he's got the full authorities to approve up to a certain level, and it is within his budget and everything else. It comes there, he discusses with these people, and it's approved, and that's done. Then it goes to the people who are going to now issue the checks or money, but that is all put into the system.
And that discipline is so important. You are disbursing against a budget.
Yeah.
And go further, and this came up in Kibaki's regime, where we used to call the AIE holder as authority to induce eating. and that can happen this. Kibaki was very clear. I don't know what to tell me there is budget. It's the budget. I want to see if I go to the account in Central Bank, are there resources? So it was linked to actual resources. So even when you actually use your LPO, it was good as cash. And that's the discipline we're talking about. Now I can say it's in the budget, but there's no funds in that account at all. But that discipline is important. This account is against the budget, against the work plan, and at the end of the day, this job done, and then you pay.
But even as we're talking about that, I wanted just to add, you're talking about efficiency of the system, because we might, or the government can put out a very good salutary effort like it's doing right now with the Treasury single account, but alongside, the chain, we have weak system like IFMIS. And this is where we have also the US, which is warning that Kenya's integrated financial, that is IFMIS, is vulnerable to manipulation and hacking, exposing taxpayers to possible loss of billions of shillings. This is the Office of the United States Trade Representative, says in the report that IFMIS faces multiple risks that has been highlighted by American firms doing or seeking to do business with Kenya. And it says US companies have expressed concerns about IFMIS due to insufficient connectivity and technical capacity in county government's offices, apathy from county government's offices or officials, central control shutdowns, and security gaps that render the system vulnerable to manipulation and hacking. This is according to the report. So even as we are talking about having a single account system, you have a plug or a hole that has not been plugged within the IFMIS system. And this has been raised time and time again since Anne Waiguru was the director of IFMIS when she was in Treasury. And now also her, she's suffering from the same system as she's a governor and the chair of a council of governors, especially when it comes to disbursing money.
I would probably be more, I want to leave out the technical part of it. Let's assume IFMIS is working correctly, TSA is working correctly, and even 222 is working correctly. My biggest concern is too much centralization. Because one way to breed corruption is to bring too much centralization. So the flexibility the two gentlemen are talking about is very important. So that at the end of the day, you have the central account, but at the same day you have flexibility to be innovative, to do things in a different way. But if the objective is to control everything, then we end up having a lot of things not being done, because you have to keep on seeking authority. And when you have to keep on seeking authority to do certain things, people take advantage most of the time. I think you have not worked for the government, so you may not understand some of these things. But you need to talk to the people who worked for the government. They'll tell you what I'm talking about.
But the fundamental here is that any system is as good as the developer and the users.
That's true.
Yeah, and that's the biggest challenge we have.
Yeah.
People have no interest of a system working, because that will now make
Of course.
Yes, they are.
You want to game the system so
and
you
I
can
think
benefit.
what the US is saying, if I was in the position, I think it's the lady who said it doesn't want to see Korea. I think it's
she's the same one, yeah.
Yeah, and with her wisdom, she says she doesn't want to see Korea. I don't know why. I think if a nation like the US, and maybe challenge even the embassy here, if you find that, the best thing is let's get a system which can minimize. I'm not saying it's foolproof, but how do we engage with the Kenyan government? How do we engage? Because there are people who have rightful thinking in this country to minimize that. I think that's a better way than saying there's this weakness. If we find the weaknesses, the best thing is come and really address those weaknesses we have. I do agree with them. Yeah. You have system there, but people don't want it. And even where we work with the XN here, their system, people have refused to go on board on them. Because one, whatever benefits they're getting, it will touch on them. But I would deliberately, as the US, come and say, let's work on this. and put conditions. You want to support from USAID? You want support for this? No. Let's first address how we are utilizing whatever what we have.
Bunyasi Sapo, what do you think? We can flag out. You know, some of the counties, like you're talking about how many accounts, 9 accounts with the PS. You have almost 40 accounts, 35 accounts from a county.
Yeah.
What is the rhyme and reason of having so many?
There are primary ways of getting around controls, but it's also ways in which you can make money through that process. So you evade the regulatory part of it. But back on the IFMIS one, I think, of course, in statements of the type that was made by the U.S. Trade Representative, she can't deal with several sides of the same issue. She's presenting the fact that there are vulnerabilities, and I guess that you can't deny that. There's no system in the world, even the NASA ones. Forget the systems of financial management. There are always hackers, and they do succeed to some degree, but perhaps not to a degree that compromises the entire system. IFMIS has had threats successful, it's not quite a threat, has had some successful kind of hacking. We saw that during the NYS scandal, how as a result of manipulation internally, payments somehow were authorized within
That's
milliseconds.
very different from hacking, because that's an internal gaming of a system.
Let me take out the word authorized. We saw how monies left the system in ways that suggested that there was internal, that you could bypass the system. That's hacking. You could bypass the system. And it could approve in ways that might not be easily detected unless you analyzed it closely. So those are vulnerabilities that do exist. And the fact that they exist in IFMIS, it cannot be new. If anything, it would be, how can they plug them? Can they go to a tighter system? And so on. But they may exist. What's implied here, as you read that, is that it's part of the corruption narrative, yeah? And that IFMIS is vulnerable, so the system passes through there. That link is not obvious, should not be necessarily, that should not be necessarily linked, and I think it's unfair to link them. But I think what they are saying is, let us focus on how we can narrow down or reduce, minimize the vulnerabilities in IFMIS. But they do exist, and by the way, IFMIS spends a lot of money annually just trying to keep up to date with systems and so on. And I remember Parliament used to question them, how much did this thing cost? It's not an off-the-shelf thing. It is a system that has been built. I think somebody using the word purposeful.
It's bespoke.
Yeah,
it's the English word.
Bespoke. Yeah. So it is something that I think we should be proud of. I think it's a good thing. And it's wonderful that far-flung counties should be subjected to having to go through some system. If we didn't have that, we would not know what's going on around us on this.
I think for me, one of the things that we haven't spoken about and people tend to not have forgotten about is this thing called blockchain. Now, if we apply blockchain on IFMIS so that there is traceability of every single activity that happens in that place, and if somebody, the stroke of a pen, whatever somebody did in the system, you can tell who it is. And if there's an approval, you can actually trace every transaction from start to beginning to end by who it was that did that thing. And you also have multiple approvals within blockchain. So that if I approve it, somebody else has got to approve it, all that has got to come together before the thing goes out. And then you apply AI. I think all these issues, I mean, people talk about vulnerability, whatever it is and so forth, but the architecture of the system is key. And for areas where there is low trust, especially in places like IFMIS and its use, if there's low trust, then use technology, use AI, use blockchain, primarily to sort of put bells and braces around a system that the architecture of which, in principle, is good, the design of it. But the way people have used it and abused it is the problem. So we just need to say we want to stop all the, the skullduggery that goes in that system, and put in blockchain, put a bit of AI that is now coming up, and then say, fine, guys, try and mess up with this thing and we shall catch you, right? And then you put the rules and regulations in that if you do certain things, you are locked in. You're blockchained yourself.
By the way, there was some very good news in one of the papers today But the parliament is saying they're going to start using AI.
The Hansard.
In the Hansard.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask.
So in the same spirit, let's have AI being used in IFMIs and other government systems.
Yes. Yeah, I know Bunyasi Sako would be very happy. I don't know if everything is captured via AI, your Hansard.
Including this discussion.
Yeah. Hansard picks everything, including a cough. It is true. But you have to get back to it to find it, as it were. But it's available in the library, usually within a day.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it is out, but generally speaking, it's within a day. By the following day, you have the Hansard copy in the Hansard library. It's very, very useful. And we can go back
So
to...
the AI will actually really up the ante.
The AI will even...
Will clean up the coughs so that the contribution of its legislators is only...
It doesn't clean out. The record includes it. They don't edit it out.
But not the intention of the cough.
No, not the intention. But that would be introducing meaning to somebody's action. Yeah, and so on.
And does that, there's a meaning to it.
Yeah. If you're coughing, interrupting a motion, that will be taking part of our filibuster.
Yeah, could be. Yes, could be. But so technology does help, certainly, in this. But control... in the case of like the Hansard thing, is accuracy in terms of information without tilting it to favor or saying, just saying this. If you're trying to take a still point, the word still, is that the right word? Get a slice of a moment and say this is what it was like at that moment. But the key thing that we're talking about the infamous thing is the hacking, is the override, the human override that finds its way into it. Yes. That you really need to completely minimize.
All right. I think we're just about to wind up as well. I'll be remiss if we don't really talk just briefly. What do you think? Because Trump has, it's the all likelihood, if you look at some of the publications there, like The Week, they're saying better off. Trump claims that the U.S. was thriving 4 years ago. Are we better off? There's looking at all indications and looking at the polls, it's really not even neck and neck. There's some differences, albeit decimals, but is there a likelihood that we're going to have Donald Trump, even as we're winding up, back? Let's begin with Exxon Iraqi, just a one-liner.
That's an interesting observation because I don't support Republicans. I don't support Democrats. I support the will of the American voters because I won't vote there. But I think what is clearly coming out is that in the U.S., politics is taking extremism. And what Trump has realized is that he can tell people what they want to hear. He can tell fellow Americans, or he can say what fellow Americans don't want to say on the streets or wherever they are together. So by appealing to that emotions, the American political emotions, he might end up being there for the second time. It has not been common in the U.S., but he might be there. But I trust the voting. I trust the American people to make the right choice.
All right. Bunyasi Sako?
Yeah, I must say on this one, my informed emotions override my rational mind that I need to. And in my informed emotions, I'm a frequent traveler to the US, probably I better guard my words, as it's not just in countries like the ones we know, that they track your very words, but the US is particularly good at it. But all I can say there is that it'd be unfortunate if he proves to be the candidate for the American people, but if they should so choose him, so be it. But I'm petrified when I hear his stance on issues like immigration and his approach to it. America is an immigrant haven. Their successes in NASA, their successes in atomic energy and so on, are all immigrants. So I think he's not being honest on this, and he's appealing to the nastiest of the emotions of some of their citizens.
Right.
I haven't said what I didn't want to say, but
will he win or not?
Get a one-liner?
Yeah, I think the American will vote and tell us what they think in their bedrooms. Trump tells us what they think in their bedrooms openly. So they'll go for him.
All right. Well, yeah, let's hear from Patrick Obath as well. What do you think?
White Americans. Let me clarify. It's a very good mouthpiece for the white Americans.
All right.
Trump is very good at appealing to emotions, and he does it very, very well. I mean, he's a media guy. He knows how to whip up support and stuff like that. And he does it extremely well. And I will just say, unfortunately, the gullible will vote for him. Because what he talks about, in my view, Trump trash. And that is what feeds a lot of the people in that country. And if they vote for him, it just tells us a little bit about the country. I have a strong view on that. As a leader, I do not rate him.
Nothing.
Right?
Thank you.
As somebody who talks, I rate him very highly.
Don't forget the economy. To be about the economy also.
Yeah.
Talk about the economy, even as we're winding up, you can just also take a publication of Economist, the latest, this is this. The AI doctor will see you eventually. If we just grab it as this is the latest copy of The Economist as well. You can get all the wiser as far as artificial intelligence is concerned. Parliament is mulling also using this for their Hansard. We have, I wanted just to show you a copy of the Kiplinger. Right, this is all about your personal finance as well. Grow your wealth. We'll help you sow the seed of a bright financial future or return to what you've already planted. The benefits of a first retirement. A look at also Warren Buffett's portfolio is on the latest publication of the Kiplinger. Get all the wiser as far as finances is concerned. Gentlemen, I want to thank you so much. Munyasi Sakwa, the chair of Kenya Development Corporation. Thank you for coming through this morning and your contribution. Also, we want to thank you, Professor Exen Iraki, who is a columnist with The Standard, also a lecturer at the University of Nairobi School of Business. Also, the chair of KEPSA Foundation, Engineer Patrick Oper. Thank you for coming through. Also, we want to thank you, Professor Gituro Wanaina, who's a professor at the University of Nairobi. Thank you for your contribution. Right, thank you. And also thank you for your valued company. You've been watching Sokoni here on Morning Prime. Don't go away. News Diary is up next.